What is going on, everybody? This is Jackson from Dinger Dudes. Today, I'm joined by 2011 World Series champion Tony Cruz. Mr. Cruz, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join this interview. How's your day going? And again, thank you so much.
What's up, guys? I'm just happy to be here with you guys, with the Dinger Dudes. Driving right now, but it took some time to get this interview in.
You're currently in Florida, correct?
I am in Florida, yes. I'm West Palm Beach, Florida. I'm based out of West Palm Beach. I'm just
So,
south of like the spring training area.
that have you been able to go to any spring training games so far this season?
This season I have not, but I do plan on making my way up there. Good buddies with John Jay and Descalzo, so
Mm.
sure I'll be up there one of these days and catch a dinner or something with them.
I can only hope. Right here. I'm located in Georgia, and it's raining right now a little bit. So I wish I was in West Palm Beach, Florida. But I did want to get into my first question relating to Palm Beach. You graduated from Santa Lucis Community High School, and then you went to Palm Beach State College and Middle Georgia College. You were selected by the St. Louis Cardinals in the 26th round of the 2007 Major League Draft. What was it like getting the call, being drafted from a team who just, I guess, got off a 2006 World Series run? And what was it like being drafted in a position to a contending team?
Yeah, for me, it was an honor. Me and my dad, we grew up watching a lot of baseball, so we were able to catch a lot of the spring training games there. It was fun going out and seeing the Jim Edmonds, the Alberts, the Yachties. I think Edgar Renteria around one time, Scott Rowland. So I remember all those guys. Yeah, it was being a fan of theirs, of just baseball in general, but being a fan of theirs, it was a great experience for me. And then just knowing that I was going to be close to home for spring training, I never knew what any of that was like. So it was nice being home and close to family while, still being in spring training and trying to work and, accomplish goals.
It's glad that you were being able close to home, and you were talking. This isn't related to my next question, but you were talking about growing up, going to these spring training games and watching these guys. As a catcher, I guess did you growing up through going up through the system? Did you ever have a guy you tried to model your game after as a catcher?
To be honest with you, I did not. There was no catcher because I was drafted originally as a third baseman,
Hmm.
and then they converted me into a catcher. And then obviously once I got alongside of Yachty, Jose Oquendo was another big one who helped me out. And then I had spent some time with Dave Ricketts. I don't know if you're familiar with that
I
name.
am familiar with him.
Yeah. So Dave Ricketts, I got a little bit of time with him. Unfortunately, he passed away while I was still in the system. And then I had Mike Matheny around, and so it was a big influence, and and Dan also as well. So it was all those guys had an influence on me, but I didn't exactly model my game after one guy because I wasn't an actual catcher. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Until I converted.
Now you had all these influences around you, such as Jose Oquendo, who was the third base, who happened to be a longtime third base coach, and then Yadier Molina, who had been in the league for about six, seven, or about a few years at the time.
Yeah.
What kind of adjustments did you have to make going from third base to catcher, and how difficult was that for you?
The adjustments, I mean, obviously there's a lot of adjustments, especially going from those two positions. But I had caught before in high school and in
Mm.
college. But it was for me, it was more so of the everyday. When I really started catching every day, that was tough for me because I was always more known for hitting. So
Mhm.
when I started catching, and in the Cardinals organization, it's all based, catcher is defense first. um, but I actually fell in love with the position, and then I really focused on catching. But it was mainly just the mental toughness of being behind the plate every day and understanding the game, game calling, situations. Those were the big things for me that I actually appreciated and loved the position more because of those things.
Now, kind of related to that, here's my next question. As a
Hmm.
catcher, you had a unique perspective on the game. And
Right.
how did you approach calling a game behind the plate? And how did you build chemistry with pitchers such as guys like Adam Wainwright and Chris Carpenter?
Yeah. Like I said, at first it was an adjustment, but I think you start to learn the guys. You know which guys are fiery, which guys you have to pat on the back. Luckily I had Yachty next to me with those
Mm.
guys in specific that you asked me about. Luckily I had Yachty next to me who gave me a pretty good plan and idea of what those guys like to do. Really, you're back there, you're trying to guide them as much as you can. Obviously, the less shakes, the better, but you're just really trying to guide them, but you're really sticking to their strengths. They know what they can and can't do, and you're really just attacking their strengths most of the time. And then when you get in a situation, I always tell people the more you've been in those tough situations, the easier it gets. You know what pitch to go to. Just knowing those guys in general, and yeah, just personalities and getting to know them and what they like to do is the biggest factor there.
I'm glad to hear this from a player's perspective because, as I mentioned earlier, I interviewed Greg Garcia last week, and he mentioned about the adjustments you kind of had to make throughout the infield. He said shortstop was the hardest position he had to adjust to, and
Hmm.
it's good to hear perspective from a former major league catcher because I haven't interviewed a catcher yet, and
Hmm.
a guy who's gone from third base to catching, that has to be like really tough adjustments. And clearly, it translated to the major league level. So, related to my next question, you made your major league debut as a starter on May 24th, 2011, collecting 3 hits and 5 at bats with 2 singles and a double, getting your first career hit off of Aaron Harang. Is that correct?
Aaron Harang, yes,
Aaron Harang. And
yes.
I, so what was it like getting your first major league hit? And basically, a backup question to this. I love asking this question. And the fastest time somebody has ever got this was 39 seconds. And that was Justin Nicolino, a former Marlins pitcher. So I wanted to ask a fun question. I
What
know it's
was it? What was the timing? What was the time for? Sorry.
39 seconds, and it's related to this
For
next question. I know
for,
it
for
was
what
four,
though?
I know it was 14 years ago
Uh-huh.
and that you made your major league debut. Can you name the MLB lineup on your team from your major league debut in the starting
Oh
lineup?
man. Do I have to be in order, or can I just tell you who was out? I know McClellan was pitching for sure.
Mhm.
Freeze at third, Terrio at
Yes.
short.
It was not Freeze at third,
It
actually.
was not Freeze
Ariel
at
was
third.
at short.
Okay, so maybe Descalso would have been Descalso
Yes.
at third.
Yes. Yes.
Albert was at first.
Yes.
Um, Man, that is Schumacher was in there.
Yes.
Did I get Terrio at short, right? Because he was
Yes, you
leading
did.
off then. Schumacher was in there. I just don't know if he was in at second or in center. That's a really tough question.
Mhm.
Left field. Um, I'm drawing a blank. Right field would have been Berkman. Oh, and left field
Right
would have been
field?
Holiday. Pretty sure everybody the
No.
normal. No, Holiday was not playing that day.
Holiday was not playing that day.
Uh,
Berkman was there.
That's how many emotions are going that day that you get so locked into the game that I honestly and I have not gone back and looked, but who was in left?
Left field was Berkman. Right field was Alan
Wow,
Craig.
Alan Craig.
First
Okay,
first base was Poole. Center field was John Jay.
Jay. Okay,
John Jay.
and Skip was at second.
And Skip was at second. That is
Yeah,
correct.
I honestly was so locked into who was on the mound and what I was going to call that I
Hmm.
totally, I forgot. I mean, in the moment, obviously I knew, but it's been so long since that I don't remember. I'm sorry to my teammates.
Oh, it's all good. It was 14 years ago. Justin Nicolino, he kind of had the card behind him, so he kind of looks at it every day. So
Yeah.
he had the card up and down, and he when he was doing it, he had his arms crossed too. Like
Hmm.
he was proud of
Yeah.
naming his
No,
lineup. But
those guys.
39
Yeah.
seconds is insane. Yeah,
Yeah.
Greg
That's crazy.
Garcia, you did it faster than Greg Garcia. Greg Garcia got it in like 2 minutes and 13 seconds.
Oh,
So, but
okay. Well, I wouldn't say I got it because I don't think I got it.
You got most of it. Greg Garcia got about 5 out of the 9 players. So
Yeah.
you
It's
got you got about 7 out of 9.
yeah, it's definitely an experience. And like I said, it's been a while and it
Hmm.
all happens so fast and you play with so many
Yeah,
guys, throughout the years. But yeah, that's awesome to know. I promise you I won't
it's
forget
great.
now.
That's a good thing. And I guess related to my next question. Again, you made your debut in 2011. You were a prominent part of those early 2010s teams. Again, I asked Greg Garcia what it was like being a part of the playoff atmosphere compared to like a regular season game, but you had the opportunity to be a part of that World Series team. What was it like from a player's perspective on winning the World Series during your career?
It's honestly a dream come true. It's an experience that you can't really put into words. It's something amazing. The city's behind you. You see all the people that it affects, in the city. To the greatest fans in baseball, in my opinion. Um, it's just a dream come true. I tell this story all the time. We would sit in the pitchers meetings, before the games, and there was a picture of the 2006 World Series up on the wall there, and I would just stare off at it sometimes and just think and imagine what that would be like. And sure enough, in 11, it comes true. In my first big league season. So it's just I'm very grateful and thank the man above for allowing that opportunity.
We're very, and trust me, St. Louis fans are very grateful for you and your contributions to that
Yeah.
2011 World Series team because I remember as a fan perspective, I was 7 years old at the time. I'm
Okay.
currently a 20-year-old college student, and I remember being like, game 6. I was at a hotel right down the street eating some Shafleys. I don't know if you're familiar with that restaurant that's located around St. Louis. But I miss I miss a lot of St. Louis festivities,
Yeah.
and I wish I could go back there. But yeah, it's great to hear that from a player's perspective. Because as a fan perspective, it's just one of the most memorable moments that growing up watching baseball. So
Yeah.
it's a good thing to hear that from you. Now, I guess related to my my next question, relating to the following seasons after, you were still a young guy in the system at the time during those 2012 and 2013 seasons, and you mentioned that you served primarily as a backup to Yadier Molina. Now, I'm not sure if you mentioned this prior, but being behind a guy of his caliber, was there any advice or moments you'd like to share from Yachty, or not just Yachty, but being in that catcher's room in the early 2010s Cardinals seasons?
Yeah, I mean, it's just so much. He brings so much to the table. I mean, obviously he gets the recognition, so what he is behind the plate in the game. But I mean, just as a leader, as a person, as a friend, you just watch him go about his work ethic.
Hmm.
Those are the things that people don't get to see. That as a player, you really respect him and you connect with him because you know how tough this game is. And when you see a guy working that way, as much time and effort as he put into it, it was amazing what he did, honestly.
It's a good thing to hear that because I Yachty historical like Hall of Fame catcher, and I feel like it's just a blessing to be behind I guess a guy like that. And when he went down, you truly showed like what you could step up and do in this in the major league positions, and you were again prominent piece of those 2010s teams, especially getting us to those playoff berths. So again, I'd like to
Yeah,
thank you for that. And I
yeah.
guess related to my next question, as a batter, you've in those early 2010s days, being in that NL Central division, you had to face pitchers such as Giovanni Gallardo, a young Garrett Cole, who else? Like Bronson Arroyo when he played for the Cincinnati Reds at the time.
hmm
As a batter, who was the toughest pitcher that you faced during your major league career,
In the Central,
or just in
and
general?
in general, I mean, those back end guys, their oldest Chapman, Cincinnati had our oldest Chapman, he's just coming at you with everything. He's a big guy, releases the ball, looks like it's right on top of you. Luckily, I don't know how I got a hit my very first time. against him, but then everything after that was a strikeout. I have to say he was definitely one of the tougher ones. But I mean, I faced Cole Hamels, those guys.
Hmm.
These guys, I try to explain to people, these guys in the big leagues, they all have something. They're not there for no reason. So I hate
Hmm.
to discredit other guys. Those guys are good, and like I said, they all have something that they do well. But I would have to say, to the likes of, even Keg Kimbrel was tough. Those back end guys, those closers, they're there for a reason. Those guys are tough to hit.
Trust me, I know Aroldis Chapman is tough to hit off of, especially when you're playing. The only way I can dream of facing him is MLB The Show, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
hated
yeah,
facing him in MLB The Show with all of my friends. And being a St. Louis Cardinals fan, I dreaded the days we had to face the Cincinnati Reds because
yeah,
Aroldis Chapman is like 38, 39 years old,
yeah.
right now, and he's still throwing like
I
90s,
know.
like tip 100, and I
Yeah,
believe he's currently a Boston Red Sox.
yeah,
So AL East fans, I got a couple Yankees fans,
yeah,
friends, so watch out for him. But
yeah, yeah,
Roldis Chapman and those back end guys, tr
yeah.
yeah, I know they were tough to face. Now, after your St. Louis Cardinals career, you ended up being traded to the Kansas City Royals, and you also happened to play for some other notable organizations after that. So you played for several teams in your career. How have your experiences varied with not just the St. Louis Cardinals and the Kansas City Royals, but with each team?
I mean, my experiences were great. Each team is a little bit different. Everybody runs their organization a little bit different. But
Hmm.
at the end of the day, for me, it's baseball. I mean, I understand it's a business and all that. But I have no complaints, and I'm very thankful and grateful for the other organizations that gave me a chance as well. Obviously St. Louis is close to my heart. It's my first team that gave me the opportunity. They brought me up to the big leagues as well. So I mean, obviously St. Louis is going to be number one for me. But I am grateful for those other organizations. They do a great job running their organizations as well.
It's a good thing to hear that and to not just show love just to St. Louis. As much as I love
Yeah,
St. Louis,
yeah.
all these other organizations have definitely built up, I guess, a stature. We've seen with the Kansas City Royals with how the way they develop
I,
young
I
guys.
don't.
Like,
I also don't want to get it confused because I say they run their organization in a great way. That doesn't mean that they're winning games or always
yeah,
winning games. But that's not for a player. That sometimes that's not what's important. It's the treatment that you get from the organization.
yeah.
I just wanted to make that clear. All right, okay, go ahead.
Oh no, no, it's all good. I know the Kansas City Royals, like the way they develop their younger players now, like guys like uh to success, like guys like Bobby Witt Jr. who are out there. Daniel Lynch, he's a younger pitcher in the Kansas City
Hmm.
Royals organization. Definitely is gonna like propel this season. So not just the St. Louis Cardinals
Yeah.
and the Kansas City Royals, but all these organizations. It's a great way to hear from a player's perspective. Now, so you've been retired for a few years now, and since retiring from playing, have you what do you currently what's your current position? Have you like considered like going to coach for major league teams, mentoring, or staying involved in baseball? What do you do currently?
Yeah, I had so after I retired, I did a year under the Cardinals, catching coordinator, and then after that, they did away with the position. So then I opened up a hitting facility, and I still do lessons and run lessons out of there. So I have my own place where I give lessons to kids, and I'm just trying to give back to the youth, and just teach the game as best to my knowledge. So I am still involved in baseball, which I love.
That's a great thing, and we definitely need. We've There's been a lot of former interviewees such as Danny Espinoza. He does O Crush Baseball out in California, and Dominic Leone, who I also recently just
Hmm.
interviewed. He has his own sports performance. So it's glad to hear that these former MLB players like to especially give back to the community and
Yeah.
stay involved in baseball. And I guess related to my next question, as a guy who had a extensive career in the MLB. Do you have, and you currently get involved with the youth in baseball like that? Do you have any advice for young catchers or ball players trying to make the league?
Um, I've been thinking about this honestly recently. If I had to give advice, it would be don't try to make it to the big leagues in one day. it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of repetition. It gets boring sometimes, but it is part of the process. You know, they talk about the 10,000 hours all the time. It's a grind. Mentally, you have to be in it as well. So it's not just the reps and doing it. It's also mentally, you know, it takes a lot of work as well. You have to be mentally tough. You know, the day in, day out, 140 games in the minor leagues, then 160 in the big leagues. It's not easy, you know. It's a grind for these guys. The ups, the downs, you know, and that's aside from stuff going on off the field, you know, family, you know, some of these guys have kids, you know, parents, all that stuff. So, like I said, it's a grind. Just keep working. Make sure you work hard. Aim in the right direction and work towards it. Just don't try to do it all in one day. It doesn't happen overnight, you know.
It's great to hear advice like that because Major League Baseball and not just Major League Baseball, like Indy and Pro Ball, is statistically the hardest sport to get to go pro in. So it's great to hear from a former Major League player
Yeah.
that advice. And it's sometimes, again, I had this discussion with Greg Garcia. It's not just about the destination; it's about the journey that goes along
Right.
with it as well. And I
Yeah,
guess
and
before.
everything's happening so fast. Information happens so fast. You have access to so much more now, you know, and sometimes when I look, I feel like these guys think sometimes like, you know, they can just get it in one day and it doesn't happen. You know, I say but all of us have gone through multiple hitting coaches, multiple catching coaches. You know what I'm saying? So I don't like when people try to just stick to just hearing it from one source. It's like, no, do your research. You know, look around, see what works for you, and try to stick to what works for you. You know, different things work for different people.
Again, it's glad to hear different perspectives, especially from a player standpoint. And we also had an interview with a former minor league coach. He gave the same advice as well. Just don't just try to
Yeah.
rush it. Just take your time with it. And again, I know it sounds corny, but if you believe, you can achieve. And
Yeah.
I firmly believe that, not just in athletics, just any career that you're trying to get into. Now,
Correct.
before I end this interview, I want to ask a couple fun questions. So during your MLB career, I know players got to have like, what's the history behind, what was your walk-up song and like, what was the history behind it and why did you choose it?
I went through multiple walk-up songs because, as you know, baseball players are superstitious. So I
Hmm.
was just trying to find one that worked. I guess my most famous one was when I did the Wolf of Wall Street. I guess I was just trying to do something different and have fun with it. I probably was not hitting at the time and going through a tough, so I was like, let me just try something. I don't know if you guys have seen that one, but yeah.
I have not, but if I
Uh,
were to, I've had discussions with other guys in the podcast on if we had a walk-up song, what would it be? And I remember this in I believe 2013 when I was still in elementary school at the time, and The Man by Owl Black came out. And
uh-huh.
every time I walk into a room with those guys, I always have they get tired of it, and I don't care if they get tired of it,
Yeah.
but it would be my walk-up song if
It
I
takes
had
you somewhere. It
yeah,
takes you
it was
somewhere for
also
you.
yeah, and it was also my
That's
walk-up song in high school when I
yeah.
played baseball then. So, when I stopped playing baseball, it kind of hurt. I wasn't good enough to make college ball, but
Mhm.
the man will always stick with me. I guess related to
Nice.
this next question, another fun question. Did you ever have like not related to a walk-up song, but did you ever have like a pregame hype song or pregame meals you used to eat before every single major league game?
I didn't really have a specific routine. I at least try to get something in. Hype song. Me and Jay really started playing a lot of just hip hop in the clubhouse. Um, there was a famous, Jay-Z and Kanye song that we would play a lot in the clubhouse. Yeah, that was probably the one thing, or in after victories as well.
I'm very familiar with this Jay-Z and Kanye
Yeah,
song.
yeah,
I'm very familiar with it. It's definitely gets the gets the vibes going. And
Yeah.
I guess, you played for a multitude of teams, not just in the minors, but in the pros as well. My personal favorite would be the baby blue Cardinals jerseys. But did you ever have like a favorite jersey or hat that you wore during your major league or minor league career?
I would have loved to have played in the baby blues. I unfortunately did not get to play in the baby blues.
Oh,
If we did, it might have been on a special occasion. So I don't remember. It was like, not
mm.
on the regular like it is now. But I actually love the cream. We used to do the cream ones on Saturdays,
Oh,
and
I do remember this.
I really like that uniform. That one's probably my favorite. And then obviously the classic. I mean, there's a few classic uniforms in the big leagues, and I think the Cardinals one is one of them.
Mhm.
Obviously the Yankees, but I think that just a classic also Cardinal uniform is great for me.
Again, not being personally biased, if I'm currently in my in a sports studio, if and I see somebody else in the control room over there. But personal bias, Cardinals Classics is always the go-to. I have a
Yeah,
Cardinals Classics Yadier Molina jersey and Adam Wainwright jersey, but
yeah,
yeah, those are 100% one of my favorites. And
yeah.
I guess relate my final question before I wrap up this interview relating to the Cardinals, I asked Greg Garcia this, and he said the Cardinals don't really have pillars like when he means by pillars like leadership players that are there in that Cardinals organization. Like the early 2010s had with guys like Adam Wainwright, Albert Pujols, Yadier Molina. What do
Hmm.
you think needs to change with this current state of Cardinals baseball? Because right now, I'm not too much of a big fan of it. I want to keep our minor league guys up, like Jordan Walker, let him develop. Victor Scott, let him develop. Because though, and Michael Ciani, who is a future Gold Glover in my opinion, but they keep sending him down as well. What do you think needs to change in this Cardinals baseball organization to, I guess, stay afloat and possibly contend for a wild card spot?
To be honest with you, that's an organizational thing. I mean, like Greg said, they did have those stable guys. I mean, they have a few guys there now.
Hmm.
Contreras is.
Yeah.
Um, the the thing that those guys brought that I'm not sure because I'm not involved, with the Cardinals
Hmm.
organization now. But those guys that you mentioned, even like the Wainwrights, the Chris Carpenters, even the Lance Berkmans, the Holiday, these guys
Hmm.
worked. So
Yeah.
these guys are playing at an elite level and they're working that hard. You have no choice as a minor leaguer coming up or as a young guy making it to the big leagues and watching these guys to work hard. So you have a blueprint per se, you know. To me it comes down to pitching and defense. To win
Hmm.
games comes down to pitching and defense. To win playoff games, it's pitching and defense. So I honestly I don't follow too much now, but
Yeah.
I would say if they can find a way to get some pitching and defense down, at the end of the day, that's what wins ball games.
And again, it's glad to hear from a former Cardinals player perspective, with especially with these successful early 2010s Cardinals teams. And Greg Garcia exactly said the same thing. As long as they can get the pitching and defense down, like I'm a big fan of the current Cardinals catcher, Ivan Herrera.
Hmm.
Big fan of him and Michael McGreevy, younger guys in the system,
Yeah,
and Tim Kent's as well. Well, as long as keeping like guys like Sonny Gray did fantastic for the team last
yeah.
season. So it's a good thing to hear from a former Cardinals player's perspective. But is there, before I wrap up this interview, is there anything you'd like to shout out? Anything you'd like for me to plug into this YouTube video that will be uploaded later today?
No, not really. Just follow me on Instagram if you can. Try to give pointers on there. Um, yeah, I don't know. I just shout out to you guys for doing this. It's honestly the first one I've done. So yeah, since I retired. So yeah, this is great. This is awesome. I love that you guys are, especially you being a Cardinal fan. I love that you get what you guys are doing.
Thank you so much. This is kind of what I want to do for a career. I'm kind of
Yeah,
involved with the sports radio at my college, and this is just a personal thing we do. It's not related to the college or anything, but
yeah,
we've kind of wanted to build this up ourselves and kind of build up our own personal brand. So I'd like to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to do this interview. And I know you have a very, very busy schedule, and it's just an honor to interview a former Cardinals player such as yourself.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for having me. Dinger dudes. Follow them.
Thank you so much.
All right.
But that's all we have time for today's interview. Y'all make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to follow us on Instagram. Follow my personal baseball on air on Instagram as well. And Mr. Cruz, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and hope to reconnect in the future soon.
Awesome. Thank you guys for having me.